Hi guys, I am Nu-Trix, the synth guy, and today we're talking about ZenBeats 1.2.2 or 1.2.3, depending on what the platform you're in. And part of the video are an excerpt of the interview I did at Roland, where we get direct answer from these guys. So, ZenBeats is for me one of the most useful DAW that I use on the iPad today. I would never have guessed that a year ago when they released, they come up with this. Honestly, to be clearer, this existed before Roland released ZenBeats. It was a company called Open Labs that existed for a lot of years. If you just look at the background of these guys, they've been there for a long time. And Open Lab had, I think it was called StageLight. And I had StageLight, so I knew the software, and I liked it. It was just a cool, simple, efficient DAW. And when Roland basically bought it, it became even more active into evolving into something better. One of the reasons I go back to ZenBeats, it's that it's just simple and easy to use. It's just quick and it works. Of course, there's been some problem in the beginning because it was a moment where Audio Unit was coming out, and I had problems with plugins, scanning for plugins, some of them crashing. I talked to the people at Roland and exchanged email about, figuring out what to do. They were quick into adding the option of quarantine of unstable plugins, because the reality is that when everybody goes into a new format, not everybody did it the right way. And on top of that, I often have beta testing. I receive a lot of these early version of plugins so I can test them out, give them some feedback, and prepare for a video before it's actually being released. And that is also a reason why some of them are unstable, because they're not the final version. So, but I could see that within like a week, Roland team would come up with a update where you could actually say, these, when you use it last time it was crashing, these are not quarantine if you want. And one of the latest update they did in the 1.2 is that they're going to add a better compatibility with plugins that are not using the right sample rate format. Some plugins, I don't know, they're at 44 and you're at 48 and they just don't comply, and then your whole thing crashed. Now, the app itself is more able to survive this problem of compatibility. So they did a lot of work in a very short time, and for me, it's still one of the simplest, easiest software to get in and just create rapidly something to play with, and it just works really well. Other thing that they added is navigation with tactile, because before it was just using the arrows on the side. Now you can actually use your finger like you would normally, so that's a normal thing. And there's also there's a new multiverb, but we all like reverb, we need that. And there's BlueTooth MIDI, which is something I really appreciate, because I have different MIDI controllers that use Bluetooth, so it's a big plus for me. And I guess that most people, well, not most people, a lot of people have this also. That I think it was something that you expected out of at least the iPad version. You expected, and yes, this is a software that is multi-platform. Yes, but listen to this.
Yeah, it's multi-platform, runs on everything. You can save projects into, and an interesting point to note that there's not that there are versions of ZenBeats for different platforms. There's one version of ZenBeats, literally one that runs on all the platforms, which is an important distinction. And it can save projects in Google Drive, so in the cloud. You can save your projects. You can work from a phone and then move to a computer, and vice versa. It also is particularly nice when you use it with things like the TR-808 plugin or the TR-909 or something, or the 303, where you can drag audio or MIDI patterns out of the plugin and then start dropping them into cells. So it's nice in a kind of cell-based architecture, which ZenBeats is. So, we're not, with ZenBeats, I don't think we're looking to try to ask people to switch their DAW necessarily, unless they're finding their DAW is too much or too cumbersome for them. It's really about either people who are coming new to music production, people that need the 80%, that all the DAWs do pretty much, but they need it everywhere, or as a tool for people to begin their work and then just bounce stems out, and then do vocals and stuff in whatever Pro Tools or Logic or Studio One or something. So, but the approach of that, it's kind of like creativity first, it's simplicity first, it's I can use it anywhere first. That's the approach, and it'll continue to grow, and it'll continue to become a bigger piece of the kind of ecosystem, but without any kind of designs on getting people to, well, you have to use ZenBeats, or we need you to switch a DAW or something like that. It's not really the approach.
So multi-platform, but it's still the same software. So that also explains why some of the ways of the graphic and choices are made this way, because they can be exactly the same in all the platforms. So that's interesting to know, because it also explains that when they update a version, you expect there's going to be a new version everywhere, because basically it's the same software. So that's pretty awesome. I like this approach. So I talked about Synology in the last weeks because I never, I heard about it, didn't know what it is. Now I can test it out, and I'm happily surprised about the result, the quality of the sound. And that's one thing that you can get right into this. You can go, and look at what's interesting is that Synology is an audio unit format and a VST3. So the power of today's technology is there. So let's just open this one. I load Synology. What I want to show you is this. I had a question this week about this, is how do you get into these banks of patches? Because let's just stop it for now. When you're into the Cloud Manager, let's look at here. Software, Synology, all of these on the sides here, like Crystal Mood and Analog Digital Vintage, they're banks of sounds, futurity beats. If you want it like available in your library, you go, okay, where do I find this? There's no library, you go bibliothèque here, library, it's here. And say, well, I want it, you go vintage keys, you go installer, I'm gonna install this one. It's actually gonna install this one. And you can say, well, I want to see those who are just for software, not for hardware, because I don't have the hardware that runs it, software only. And I want to have a Twisted Trap. Well, it's actually installed. I want to have Heads of London. It's actually installed. Okay, where do I find these? Well, actually, when you go back into your Synology here, you need to rescan for it. Sometimes, in this case, I had to rescan for new plugins. So let's say you're in Ableton Live, same thing. You need to rescan it to be sure that it will scan the plugin and the patches for the plugin. And then when you click on it, now you have here the factory presets and then all these other banks. We're talking about Vintage Synth, Futurity Beat, Lo-Fi, Heads of London, Twisted Trap. Okay, so what does that mean? Like, some of them are actually drums. This one is Future Beats, Future Beat Kick. So now, and so, well, I want to change this one. Actually, you can take this one and you click on the kick, and you have a list of kicks. So the wealth of sounds is amazing. Now, some of them might be samples, but also a lot of them, this is Synology, most of them are actually emulation, what they call the analog behavior modeling. So this is pretty awesome. I like this. I like the length, the amount of sounds you can have access with this is just amazing. This is cool, but at the same time, there's a problem. The problem is that if I make a song with that, and I take my song, I save it into the cloud. I can save it on a Google Drive, I can save it on iCloud, I can save it on with Dropbox, and then I can go on my iPad, download them, run on the iPad, or take my iPhone, download on my iPhone, run it. My main problem is that I don't have the same synthesizers. I don't have Synology on the iPad. I don't have the iPad synthesizers on my Mac. Now, we can envision this to change because of the Apple announcement this week that the next Mac next year will run iPad apps, iOS apps onto the Mac. So my problem of moving stuff from my Mac to my iPad to my Mac would basically, if I get the same plugins, I'm going to be a happy camper. But still, the question to be asked is this: will we have Zencore technology or the Roland cloud on the iPad?
Can neither confirm nor deny, but it's possible.
I hope so, because that would simplify moving sessions from my Mac to my iPad and back and forth. Because right now, if I run with a plugin that I don't have on the other platform, I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah. Well, I will say it is a desire of, as we look at how people are making music and the challenges they face, the unique challenges they face these days, where a lot of things are being done by the artist, and there's a need to kind of make things transportable and mobile. That we want to create an ecosystem, a musical production ecosystem where people really can share projects, they can move things, they can work in hardware if they want to, they can work in software, they can work on any platform they want, but they're continuing to build this collection of sounds, and they're continuing to build their musical projects pretty much anywhere without the hindrances of, oh, I don't have this plugin, or that person doesn't have that, or now I'm here, or I need to work on this hardware, but I need to play that sound in my. We're trying to remove all that, essentially, to make it flow easier and people to get the sounds they want and not have to worry about quality of sound, So yeah, it certainly lend itself well to that kind of dream, I think.
Cool. So I'll be waiting.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted.
So we're just waiting, but my guess is that it is logical for Roland to do that move at one point, because what we know now is that the iPhone and the iPad are not less capable than my computer that is a i5 from, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old and still does the job. So Synology should work. And I'm guessing that we're going to see this at least one day down the road as being a integrated part between the two. And that's kind of the logic thing to do, because at one point you want people to be able to move around with your stuff. That's what Cork does with Gadget. Gadget exists for Mac and PC and all the plugins on the both places, but Gadget doesn't do audio unit. So I'm still preferring ZenBeats on that, because audio unit are available and can run all these crazy plugins like Eventide and Bliss and Synology. That's it. I've seen people online writing about how difficult the interface is, and then just like, I don't get how difficult it is. You have basically two windows. You have this one, and if you double click, you have the edit window of that track, and that's it. There's nothing else. Now, if you want to have more details, you take the little arrow on the side, you get more details, and then you want to edit that, you double click, or you go, you want to change sound, you want to rename, duplicate. Everything is, well, that might be the case. It's like, if you see that this interface was made for a tactile iPad, iPhone approach. And maybe on the computer, if you're not used to using an iPad, you might go, where is it? There's no menu. No, there's no menu, because there's no menu on a tablet and an iPad. So that might be the reason. That might be why people are going, I don't get it. Because it's not a software made for a computer first. It's part of what it does. But it's made for a portable tablet or iPad first. So that might be the reason why some people just do, I don't understand it. But for me, I find it, very easy to use. And I mean, all the graphics are there, and then you always repurpose the same space to have these. I mean, you go back to this, you've got your mixer window, you've got your loop. You want it to be linear, and you can switch to linear in this way here, and it becomes a linear sequencer. So it just works, And I understand that when you get a software, let's say you never used an iPad before, and then you get this software, and you go, I don't know how to work it. I remember when Ableton Live started, and I started to use it, the first week, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why it worked this way. I was looking on different ways to use it. I was looking for menus all the time to do my action where you could just drag and drop and it would create a track, you know. It's stupid. Now you go, well, of course, I don't have to create a track. It will create one for me. But when Ableton Live came out, it was the first company that has this. Well, why create a track? Just drop your MIDI file. It would create a track for a MIDI file. And then today it's obvious you can do that. But like 12 years ago, I was like, what? You could do that? And it takes a time to say, well, I'm used to this, but now there's also that. And it took me a week just to, you know, play around with it until I could like, oh, this is how it works. And I was like super happy to have this mind-altering vision of how I could control my music. But it took me the effort of going back and back and back at least 4 times in a week on the same software, speaking like 1 hour, 2 hours, playing around with it, and just like the problem is that we often go back to the old ways that we're, you know, accustomed to because it's how we know to work. It's normal. And then we get the new software. Either we appreciate it because it finally answers our prayers, or it does it so differently that you go, I don't like it because I don't get it. And that was my problem at first. But if at one point you get it, you might go, well, it's exactly, you know, what I need, or it is a breath of fresh air because I never thought I could do it this way. And I'm not saying that ZenBeats is that, you know, revolutionary, because it's a simple, efficient, fast sequencer. But the fact that it does my iPhone, iPad, and Mac, that for me is a blessing. It just helps me create wherever I want. I'm waiting in the car, turn on my iPhone, I can continue a song. I'm waiting in line to, because now you're waiting in line everywhere. I'm waiting in line to pay for something. I can take my phone and actually play with it. And I work on the song. And it's the same song. Well, of course, except the choices of sounds. But, if I don't have the same sound, one ways to get rid of that is to actually freeze the track. You go freeze track. And then when you freeze it, you actually convert that track into a sound file. And then you don't need the plugin anymore. Of course, it's going to be there because now you can take that song, save it online, open it in my iPad, and then that track, I'm basically not going to change it because it's free, it's frozen. I'm going to create video of the tracks around it, and if I want to change it again, I will upload it back into my computer, unfreeze, and then modify the stuff I want, and then freeze it again if I want to. So before I upload to the cloud, freeze the track. So that's kind of the solution for now until we have the same apps between, you know, laptop and iPad. So that's it. I hope you like this. I hope it's actually useful. I hope you get a kick out of it and you learn a little bit more stuff. Again, if you have comments, you know where to put them. If you like what I'm doing, thumb up. Click on the notification bell to subscribe. Keep in mind that there's new stuff coming on this channel. One thing is that I now offer one-on-one consultation. So if you want to have, if you want to pick my brain for an hour and you want me to online go look at your setup and help you set it up so it works correctly, go on my Nu-Trix.com website. In this section, and you can just write the question, and we can evaluate how much time it can pay me to help you fix or help you just start your setup the right way. Also, I started a Patreon now. So if you're interested, I will explain a little bit more later of the whole thing about Patreon. But basically, if you want to support me, if you like what I'm doing, if you just want to give me a thumb up, you can actually go on Patreon, and you can just subscribe. You can give me a little money every month if you like what I'm doing, and there's going to be extra stuff. One of the extras is actually every month one live Q&A with the people who bought that package, basically. So that's it. That's where this is going. And again, any comments about this, you know where to put them. And I hope to see you soon. Be safe and make more music. Cheers.